started to cut down some of the dead material from last year, which is important so we can get a lot of sunlight to a lot of the stuff that likes to pop up early in the spring. And if we didn't cut it down like a beaver or a muskrat or some other critter normally would over a winter, then you risk only having certain species do well and not others. Sort of important. It's kind of the same principle of why you do a prescribed burn in a prairie or in a forest. Is after a while, if you don't have fire come through, you're just getting an accumulation of growth that starts to stack on top of each other, which in some situations is fine, but in a lot of other situations you're going to have plants that are species that are unable to get past that point. So you'd start to have a loss of diversity if a lot of this plant material was to never be dealt with ever. So from our point of view, when we're trying to maximize our plant diversity out here, one thing we definitely don't want to happen is those smaller or slower species to get shaded out for a whole year. It's a situation we ran into with the jewelweed last year, where it grew up very tall very quickly and shaded anything out that might have wanted to fill in underneath, and then we had to go in and replant a lot of those spots later in the year. So from our standpoint, trying to maximize diversity, we mostly always want to be keeping these islands as clean as we can of all the dead material at the right time of the year. It would be very helpful, and normally if mammals were able to get down here, things like muskrats or rabbits or squirrels, but a lot of birds, non-mammalians, a lot of things will use that dead material throughout the winter to build nests, to insulate themselves. Sometimes you can still use it as food depending on what you are, but for the most part it's a lot of the way that things insulate themselves going into the winter. So even things like insects, they'll look for woody sticks, they'll look for wood that they can bore into and then emerge in the spring. So a lot of these things, the ecology, the winter ecology of a lot of these organisms is reliant on stuff being there. But in the spring, when things kind of start to change again, it usually gets taken away by everything that would be using it, or by fires, or by floods washing things away. Really depends on the species and the ecosystem, but for the most part, it's a good thing to give things space to breathe. You'd find muskrats for sure. We definitely saw some minks. Beavers are always going to be out and about. A lot of migratory birds end up staying here because the water does not freeze over, and a lot of times they will go to a point where the water doesn't freeze over. They'll go as far south as that takes them. So in our situation, we have a lot of warm water effluent coming off of places, meaning that our canal kind of stays a little toasty throughout the winter, doesn't freeze over, which is pretty helpful for a lot of those different bird species that are migrating through.